Hey guys, welcome to my Yuri Deck profile. This will likely be the last character deck I do, at least for the time being. And it'll be the last of the U-Boys as they're called. I do not intend to cover Yuya as his deck by the end of the series is extremely bloated. The most I'd be able to do is either before he fused with Yuto or before he transformed into Zark. And even then, a lot would have to be cut out since I believe his card count goes way above 60. I did also ask if I should do Yuri's deck before or after he absorbed Yugo, and one person said after, so that's what I've done. Now let's get into the deck. Starting with the monsters we see Yuri use, we have Pertaplank's Banksy Ogre. Now we do not know what this card's anime effect is, as Yuri immediately uses it to synchro summon after summoning it, so I decided to give it its real-world special summon effect. I'm not fully sure if it should have more, but since it's a tuner, I think it's fine. Next we have Pertaplank's Cephalotus Snail. It cannot be destroyed by battle while in attack, and you only take half damage from attacks involving this card. Not the best wall to shield yourself with, but combine this with Spirit Barrier and you've got some decent battle defense. Next we have Pertaplank's Cordyceps. The big difference between real world and anime is the anime version does not have the fusion summon lock. Up until Yuri beat Yugo, this would have been irrelevant since Yuri is a fusion summon duelist, but even with that change, Pertaplanks are predominantly fusion focused, though having to wait until your standby phase is not ideal. Next we have Pertaplank's Darlingtonia Cobra. The anime version can search polymerization spells regardless of how it's special summoned, and the effects can be used multiple times, so it's better than the real-world adaptation in that regard. But it cannot search fusion spells, which makes it worse. Now we do not know if Yuri runs any fusion spells like fusion deployments and the like, but I think not having that isn't that big of a deal. Next we have Pertaplank's Drosophilum Hydra. The anime version lacks the special summon effect, and its attack reduction effect is not a quick effect and can only be used while Hydra is on the field. But it does have the additional effects from the graveyard to have any battle damage you would take by banishing a Pertaplank from your graveyard, then returning one of your banished monsters to the graveyard. The attack reduction is pretty underwhelming, so I imagine the graveyard effect would be used more often. Next we have Pertaplank's Flytrap. It got no changes when brought to the real world, so there's really nothing to talk about. Next we have Pertaplank's Lizard. If it's summoned from the graveyard, you draw a card. This could be abused pretty easily in the right deck if you're able to loop it, so unless they put some kind of restriction on it, this should stay in the anime. Next we have Pertaplank's Moray Nepenthes, another one that is identical between anime and real world. Next we have Pertaplank's Ophrys Scorpio. The anime version specifically requires you to send a Predaplank to the graveyard and can only summon a level 3 or lower Predaplank from the deck, making it much more restrictive, but no once per turn, so if it was possible, you could do it multiple times in a turn. Next we have Pertaplank's Saracenians. The anime version lacks the Search a Predap card effect, so it's really just a battle trick card. Next we have Pertaplank's Squid Drosera. The anime version's multi-attack effects can only be used during the battle phase, and forces the monster you choose to multi-attack. Its predator counter effects does not change levels, and it does not need to be face-up when leaving the field. So, a case of better and worse. The final monster we see Yuri use is Pertaplank's Stapelia Worm. If a card or effect would alter a monster's attack, this will prevent it, though it does have to be on the field to use this effect. It's pretty situational, but could be handy in the right circumstances. Moving to the spells, we have Destruction Flower and Destruction Fruit. I'm showing them together as they are meant to be played together. You activate each of them by sending a face-up continuous spell from either field to the graveyard, and they both require you to send a different continuous spell you control to the graveyards to keep them on the field. Destruction Fruit lets you revive any of your monsters that get destroyed by a card effect by reducing the attack of a monster you control by 3000. When you do that, Destruction Flower lets you target a monster you control with less attack than the revived monster's original attack, and a monster your opponent controls to inflict damage to your opponents equal to the attack difference between your monsters, then reduce the attack of the opponent's monster by the damage inflicted. I believe this would be classified as a very gimmicky combo, as a lot has to go right, and without any continuous spells on the field, these can't be activated. I don't know how well these would work in the real world, but if someone could pull it off consistently, that would be impressive. Next we have Ivybind Castle. While it's on the field, all of your opponent's face-up cards are negated, their monsters cannot attack, and during each of their standby phases, they take 800 damage for every monster they control. But you do have to tribute a Predaplant during your standby phases to keep this on the field. This is one of those cards that a lot of people agree cannot be printed, and it's not hard to see why. Next we have Polymerization. No explanation needed for this one. Next we have Predaponics. It is identical between anime and real world. Next we have Predapruning. It is also identical between both versions. Kinda funny how so many anime cards were brought over without any changes. Next we have Rapid Seed Fire. By rapid fire dumping level 4 or lower Predaplants from your deck, you constantly burn your opponents for 300 damage and debuff their monsters by 600 attack. And if it's destroyed, you can blast away your opponent's cards depending on how many Predaplants you have out. Not a bad card, though why they felt they needs to give burn to Predaplants is anyone's guess. Next is Super Polymerization, the ultimate fusion card, though not really since characters always seems to find a way around its cannot be responded to clause. Next is Ultra Polymerization. The anime version only requires 1000 life points to activate. It automatically resummons the fusion materials to the field as opposed to having to wait until you banish it from the graveyard. It does not negate their effects, then you can either make them level 4 for an Xyz summon or change one of them into a tuner for a synchro summon. It also still maintains Super Polys cannot be responded to effects, but the anime version has the drawback of nuking your field and burning you for a lot of damage if you did not use the revived monsters for a synchro or Xyz summon. It's a lot more bloated than its real-world adaptation, but a lot more versatile too. The final spell is Violet Flash. When activated, it gives activation immunity from your opponent's spells or traps anytime you'd activate a Polymerization or Fusion card, and if you Fusion summon, you can draw a card. This would be pretty decent Fusion support as it doesn't prevent monster effects which are a lot more prevalent. Moving to the traps, we have Dark Seed Planter. When activated, your opponent's monsters all become dark, and it can negate attacks from your opponent's dark monsters against yours. This is very much meant to be used with Super Poly, but the attack negation could come in handy since there's no once per turn. Next we have Dragon Vine. It lets you steal an opponent's dragon monster if you have one, but not the one with the highest level, which seems very specific, but it would work extremely well against Xyz and Lynx since they don't have levels. Next we have Extra Shave Reborn. This was one of Yugo's cards that Yuri added to his deck. If an extra deck monster you control gets destroyed, except Pendulums since they don't live in the extra deck, you can target a lower level extra deck monster in your graveyard, again except Pendulums, and revive it. Not the most generic revival card, but could come in handy. Next is Predaplant Reborn. It's a monster reborn for Predaplants, but slower as it's a trap, the exact same as Red Eye Spirit. Next is Predaprouting. It works kinda like Kunai with Chain, as you can choose to use one or both effects. When your opponent attacks one of your dark monsters, you can make it battle immune and destroy the opponent's monster, and you can summon 3 tokens which can be used for many things if you can keep them around. The final main deck card is Ridiculing World. This is meant to be Yuri's counterpart to Yuya's Smile World card. Until the end phase, your opponent's monsters all gain 100 attack, but cannot attack if they have more than their original attack. It could definitely slow your opponents down, at least in older formats. Not sure how effective it would be nowadays. Moving to the extra deck, we have Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. The anime version can use materials from anywhere, including tokens, but you'd want to use monsters on the field for best effect. Its effect copying effect does not let it take a monster's name, and it negates that monster's effects to copy them. Its nuke effect also triggers regardless of whether it was fusion summoned and burns the opponents, so if they have a big enough board, you could seriously damage them. It's probably best they left that effect out, as there's little doubt people would find a way to abuse it. Next is Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon. The anime version can use any level 8 or higher dark monster, regardless of whether it was the original level. It can be cheated out of the extra deck, though you will still want to fusion summon it, and its fusion materials can each be banished from the graveyards to revive Greedy Venom if it gets destroyed. Its negation effect is the same, and its board wipe effect is not only optional, but also inflicts burn damage. But if its revive effect is used, the second effect is delayed until the following turn. A pretty decent card overall compared to the real-world adaptation. The final card is Yugo's Dragon, Clearwing Synchro Dragon. The big difference is the anime version can use its effects basically infinitely, and as Yuri showed against Yusho, this can be pretty devastating. And that's it for every card Yuri uses in the show. Now for what I've added. For the monsters, I've added Protoplant's Chlamydo Sundew. Since I've added more fusions to the extra deck, we obviously need more ways to fusion summon. This card is the Ancient Gear Hunting Hound for Protoplants, minus the burn damage. Next is Protoplant's Heliamphorinchus. Getting its special summon off isn't too difficult if you could keep the Predator counters flowing, but the revival effect is too slow and easily played around. Next is Protoplant's Spinodionea. Having a non-once per turn way to spread counters is nice, but it would be much better if it could special summon from deck a faster way. For the spells, I've added Predaplast. It's not always great to reveal the contents of your hand, but since it helps with the deck's game plan, I guess it's not the worst thing ever, and the added protection is nice, though they should have included effects destruction protection. Next is Predapractice. It's a good way to bring the high levels out, and it's a search for most of the archetype. The restriction is barely an issue given the archetype is fusion focused. Next is Predaprime Fusion. It's not quite a full super poly, but we take what we can get. Next is 2 more copies of Polymerization. I have a lot of fusions in the extra deck, so we need these. Next is Pot of Greed. I know it's disappeared after GX, but I'm going to include it when I can. Next is Defusion. A bit strange that Yuri is never shown to use this, though considering he basically only ever summons his dragon, it kinda makes sense. Next is Battle Fusion. Given Yuri's sadistic personality, I see little reason why he wouldn't choose to run this. For the traps, I've added Predaplanet. It is a very slow way to search, and only allowing Predaplanets to be used for the fusion effect is pretty restrictive, but if you play the deck pure, it's not too big of a deal. The final main deck card I added is Predaplanning. It's not a bad way to spread counters, and the pop effect is nice, and I don't imagine too difficult to get off. For the extra deck, I've added Predaplant's Ambulo Melodies, Chimeraphlasia, Dragostapelia, Trifera Veritum, and Starving Venom Predapower Fusion Dragon. This is to fill the extra deck out, since just the 2 dragon fusions is both limiting and boring. And that's it for the deck. As I mentioned, this will be the last character deck I do. Further deck profiles will be actual real-world decks, of which I have a laundry list to do, plus decks using my custom cards, of which the next 2 will be the CPU Sovereign deck and the Midnight Fighter deck. As always, please rate, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on X, consider backing me on Patreon, and remember to stay chilled.